December 26, 1996. Boulder, Colorado. The day after Christmas. At 5:52 in the morning, Patsy Ramsey called 911. She was hysterical. She had found a ransom note on the stairs of her home, 3 pages long, demanding $118,000 for the safe return of her 6-year-old daughter, JonBenét. By the time detectives arrived, the crime scene had already been compromised in ways that would haunt investigators for decades. Boulder police arrived quickly. But instead of sealing the house as a crime scene and waiting, friends and family members were allowed inside. The ransom note remained on the stairs, handling unknown. Police searched the house once and found nothing, or so they believed. Then, hours later, John Ramsey went back to search himself. In the basement wine cellar, he found his daughter's body. JonBenét Ramsey was wrapped in a white blanket. She had been strangled with a garrote, a makeshift ligature fashioned from a piece of cord and a broken paintbrush handle found in the house. She had also suffered a skull fracture. The medical examiner ruled her death a homicide. She had been dead for approximately 8 hours, meaning she was killed around midnight, not abducted. The ransom note instantly became one of the most analyzed documents in criminal history. It was written on paper from inside the house, using a pen from inside the house, which meant the writer had almost certainly been there before or was there when they wrote it. The note referenced an amount $118,000 that was nearly identical to a bonus John Ramsey had just received. It was unusually long for a ransom note. Investigators believed it was staged. JonBenét was a child beauty pageant competitor. Images of her in full makeup, elaborate costumes, and stage lighting were broadcast globally. The coverage was, in many cases, exploitative, turning a murdered 6-year-old into a cultural spectacle. But those images also introduced a disturbing question: had someone seen her on stage and become obsessed? From the beginning, suspicions centered on the Ramseys themselves. The Boulder Police Department's handling of the case was widely criticized, but the direction of their investigation was even more controversial. They focused intensely on Patsy and John, convinced that the evidence pointed inside the family. The local DA's office had a different view. The result was an extraordinary public conflict between law enforcement agencies that lasted years. Physical evidence told a complex story. Foreign male DNA was found underneath JonBenét's fingernails and in her underwear, DNA that did not match John Ramsey, Patsy Ramsey, her brother Burke, or any known suspect. This touch DNA became the most significant forensic lead in the case. Whose DNA was it? 2 decades of database searches found no match. In 2006, a man named John Markar came forward in Thailand, claiming he had killed JonBenét accidentally during a sexual encounter. International media coverage was intense. Carr was extradited to the United States. And then, his DNA did not match the evidence. He had no demonstrable connection to the Ramsey home. His confession was dismissed as fantasy. He was released without charge. In 2008, the Boulder District Attorney's Office issued a stunning public statement. Based on the DNA evidence, the Ramsey family was officially cleared of any involvement in JonBenét's death. The DA wrote directly to John Ramsey. Patsy had died of ovarian cancer in 2006, apologizing for the cloud of suspicion that had hung over his family for more than a decade. It was a remarkable act of institutional accountability. Investigators then shifted focus to an intruder theory. Someone had entered the home, possibly through a broken basement window. Former Detective Lou Smith, who had worked the case before resigning in protest over the Ramsey-focused investigation, had long argued for this scenario. He pointed to a scuff mark on the wall beneath the window, a suitcase positioned below it, consistent with someone climbing in. Burke Ramsey, JonBenét's older brother, was 9 years old the night she was killed. He was interviewed multiple times over the years. In 2016, CBS aired a documentary that strongly implied Burke was responsible. Burke sued for defamation. In 2017, CBS settled the lawsuit for an undisclosed sum. Whatever really happened, speculation about Burke had crossed legal and ethical lines. The ransom note remains a puzzle. Linguists who analyzed it identified phrases borrowed from films, including Dirty Harry and Speed. Some experts believed the writer was deliberately disguising their normal writing style. Others argued its amateurish construction pointed to someone panicking, writing in real time, stalling. What everyone agreed, the note was deeply strange. Over the years, multiple investigative teams and journalists have proposed different suspects: a neighbor, a housekeeper, a family friend, a Santa Claus who had visited the home on Christmas Day. Each theory had its proponents and its holes. Each time investigators got close to building a case, something fell apart: a missing alibi, degraded evidence, witnesses who had died. Modern DNA technology offered new hope. In 2016, investigators used a technique called genetic genealogy, the same method used to catch the Golden State Killer, to try to identify the unknown DNA profile. The technology could theoretically trace the donor through shared DNA with relatives who had uploaded profiles to consumer databases. Results, if any, have not been made public. The question of the skull fracture complicates every theory. The blow to JonBenét's head was severe, an 8.5-inch fracture suggesting significant force. Yet there was no external bruising consistent with such an injury. The medical examiner found it difficult to determine whether the fracture or the strangulation had killed her first. The sequence mattered enormously to understanding what happened. Nearly 3 decades later, the Boulder Police Department has never officially closed the case. Investigators say they continue to process new leads. The unidentified DNA remains in the database, being checked against new profiles. A case this cold rarely gets solved, but occasionally, it does. The Golden State Killer was identified 40 years after his crimes began. What the JonBenét case revealed about American media was perhaps as disturbing as the crime itself. The obsession with her pageant photos. The relentless coverage. The rush to judgment. The Ramseys were tried in public long before any evidence pointed definitively anywhere. The coverage was a forerunner of the true crime industrial complex we now take for granted. John Ramsey remarried and moved to Michigan. He ran for state office. He gave periodic interviews about JonBenét's case, always emphasizing the DNA evidence that cleared his family and the stranger who, he believed, had entered their home and killed his daughter. His life and the lives of everyone connected to that Christmas night in Boulder was irrevocably altered. JonBenét Ramsey would be 33 years old today. The little girl in the pageant videos, performing, dancing, smiling under stage lights, has become one of the most recognizable faces in American true crime history. Not for anything she did. For what was done to her. And for the fact that, 28 years later, no one has been held responsible. The case endures because it touches something deep and uncomfortable in our culture. The safety of children in their own homes. The presumption of innocence. The difference between media verdict and legal verdict. The reliability of forensic science. The slow, grinding machinery of justice and its failure to always reach a conclusion. Whoever killed JonBenét Ramsey, if they are still alive, has lived for 28 years knowing what happened in that basement. The evidence still exists. The DNA still sits in a database. Somewhere, a family tree contains the answer. The investigators who have spent careers on this case believe it can still be solved. JonBenét deserves that. Her family deserves that. The truth is still out there.